Before we get into tonight's story, take a second to subscribe if this kind of slow, sarcastic suffering helps you fall asleep. No pressure. Just if you actually enjoy this kind of thing. And let me know in the comments what time it is for you and where you're listening from. I still think it's wild that someone in Kentucky and someone in New Zealand might both be trying to fall asleep to the same story about trench rot and military rations. All right, lights off, fan on. Let's get to it. You wake up on the ground. It's cold. It's damp. You're wrapped in something that smells like wet hay, old bacon grease, and the inside of a used boot. That's your blanket. You have one. You're one of the lucky ones. There's no mattress, no bed frame, no pillow. Just the hard-packed dirt of the Canadian frontier in 1812. Frozen solid because some brilliant officer decided tents were optional and firewood was for cowards. Congratulations. You're an American soldier now. The War of 1812 has just started, though nobody seems entirely sure what it's actually about. Something impressment, something honor, and something Canada. Apparently, you're here to take it. Canada, that is. Like, all of it. With 3-day-old boots, a broken musket, and diarrhea. Great plan. You sit up. Slowly. Very slowly. Because your joints are on strike and your spine feels like someone rolled it out with a wagon wheel overnight. You're 21, but your back thinks it's 70. The air smells like wet tobacco, bad teeth, and trench feet. Your tent, if you even have one, is made of thin canvas that lets in the wind, the rain, and the occasional aggressive raccoon. If you're sleeping outdoors, well, that's worse, because the frost doesn't care about your patriotism. It's in your bones now. You squint at the pale sky. Is it dawn? Noon? Who knows? You haven't seen a watch in weeks, and the sun rises just to glare at you before retreating behind the fog. Someone's coughing next to you. It's either Elijah or Nathaniel. You can't tell anymore. Everyone here is slowly turning into the same wheezing, lice-ridden husk. The guy next to you hacks up something that might be a lung. You ask if he's okay. He nods. Classic 1812 medical self-diagnosis. I'll walk it off. You stand up. Sort of. Your legs wobble. Your boots are soaked through. Your socks are stiff with mud. And your feet make a noise that should not come from any living person. You've got blisters, frostbite, and something growing on your left toe that's probably alive. But hey, the war waits for no one. There's no coffee, no breakfast menu, no flapjacks with syrup and a side of eggs. You get a chunk of salt pork, a biscuit hard enough to chip your tooth, and a ration of whiskey if you're lucky. The pork is gray. The biscuit smells like dust. The whiskey is gone. You chew. Slowly, carefully. The biscuit breaks before your teeth do. Barely. You try to wash it down with water from a wooden bucket that's been sitting out all night. It tastes like bark, iron, and something that died in it. Could be a squirrel. Could be Private Tucker's sock. Now it's time to get dressed. You are already dressed. You've been wearing the same uniform for 19 straight days. It's wool. Scratchy, heavy, always wet. You dream about cotton, but wool is what you've got, and it holds just enough warmth to make you wish it didn't. You've got a coat with brass buttons, except 2 are missing. Your trousers have a hole that lets in every cold breeze and curious insect. Your shirt hasn't been washed since. Actually, it never has. Soap is a fantasy. So is laundry. You stink. Everyone stinks. It's an equal opportunity misery. You don't have underwear. Not because you forgot to pack it. Just because no one did. It's 1812. Underwear is for people with money or shame. You have neither. You reach for your gear. Your musket leans against a log, wrapped in damp cloth. It misfired yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. You don't trust it. It doesn't trust you. Your bayonet is dull, your powder's wet, and your cartridge box smells like moldy bread. You sling everything over your shoulder, which immediately regrets it. Your back protests. Your arms ache. Your stomach makes a noise like a dying possum. Breakfast didn't help. Nothing helps. This is war. And this is just the morning. You line up with your unit. 47 guys, or maybe 38. It's hard to say. Some might be dead. Others might have deserted. You lost count. The officer shows up. He's clean. He's got a fresh coat. His boots shine. You hate him on principle. He tells you you're marching today, again. More mud, more hills, more frost. Destination unclear. Tactics also unclear. Leadership questionable. But orders are orders. So you walk. Your pack digs into your shoulders like it's trying to kill you faster than the British can. It's heavy, but not because it's full of supplies. It's full of regret. And maybe a broken frying pan. The mud is ankle deep and somehow smells worse than your socks. Every step makes a sound like someone stepping on a wet loaf of bread. Your feet are soaked within minutes. Again. You slip. You almost fall. You do fall. Now you're wet, muddy, and emotionally broken. Someone behind you starts singing. You hate him too. And now you're hungry. Again. You reach into your pack. There's a lump of something that used to be cheese. It's blue now. You eat it anyway. You will regret this later. The guy in front of you farts. Loudly. No one reacts. It's not worth it. The officer stops you near a river. You're building a camp. Again. Which means cutting trees with tools older than your grandfather and hauling logs while your arms scream for mercy. There are no axes. There are sticks shaped like axes. You make do. You spend the next 3 hours moving frozen dirt, stacking branches, and cursing under your breath. Your nose runs. Your hands bleed. Your hope dies. You build a lean-to. It collapses. You build it again. It leaks. You give up. Now it's evening. The sun hasn't been out all day, but now it's definitely not out. It's cold again. Your fingers are stiff. You try to start a fire. Your flint is wet. Your kindling is wet. Everything is wet. You weep silently. Eventually, someone gets a spark going. You huddle around it with 30 other miserable souls. No one talks. There's nothing left to say. Dinner is salt pork again. It's grayer than before. You chew slowly. You don't want to finish it, but you don't want to starve either. So you chew and swallow and regret. You lie down in the mud under a branch, wrapped in a blanket that smells like boiled feet. The stars are out. Somewhere. You can't see them through the fog. Or maybe that's just smoke from the fire. You close your eyes. Your back hurts. Your feet hurt. Your teeth hurt. Everything hurts. And this is just day one. You wouldn't last a week. But you do. Because you have no choice. You fall asleep thinking about home. About warm beds and clean water and not dying from diarrhea in a trench outside Montreal. And somewhere in the distance, someone's coughing again. Don't worry, you'll probably catch it by morning. Sleep tight. You wake up coughing, not politely, not discreetly. It's the kind of coughing that shakes your ribs, leaves a taste in your throat like old pennies, and makes the guy next to you mutter something that sounds like, "Not again." Your nose is frozen, your fingers won't bend, and your feet, you don't want to think about your feet. They feel like bricks, but wetter. You try to move your toes. You get a squelch. That's it. Just one sad little squelch from the depths of your boot. You sit up slowly, carefully, because last time you jolted awake, your neck did something unnatural, and you couldn't turn your head for 2 days. You're learning, very slowly, like a frostbitten turtle in a war you don't understand. Around you, the camp is waking up. Someone's throwing up. Someone else is arguing with a log. A third guy is quietly crying into his blanket. You nod at all of them. The brotherhood of shared misery. Welcome to another glorious day of service in the United States Army, circa 1812. Breakfast is a biscuit. Again, still hard enough to murder a raccoon with. You bang it on your knee to soften it. It bruises your leg. You chew anyway. You chew like your life depends on it. Because, technically, it does. The officer shows up again. His coat is even cleaner today. You have a theory he's got a second one tucked away somewhere, maybe scented with lavender and smugness. He tells you the British are on the move, or maybe it's the Canadians, or maybe it's just the wind. The reports are always vague, and no one really knows what's happening because there's no radio, no phone, and half the messengers keep getting lost or eaten by wolves. You're told to march. Again. Not a new direction, not a new plan. Just go forward. With purpose. What purpose? That's not for you to know. You're just the moving part. So you march. The road, if you can call it that, is mostly ice and regret. Frozen slush from last night's rain has hardened into jagged ridges that poke through your soles like little icy knives. You shuffle more than walk. Your breath comes out in little clouds. You think about home. Home, where food is hot, water is clean, and you're allowed to sleep past dawn without a squirrel trying to steal your biscuit out of your pocket. Someone slips in front of you and lands in a puddle. They stay there, just breathing, not even mad, just accepting it. That's where they live now, in the puddle. You keep moving. A mile later, you stop. It's time to dig latrines. No, really. That's your job for the next 2 hours. Pick a spot, dig a hole, and try not to cry. The ground is frozen. The tools are dull. The smell is unforgettable. There's no toilet paper. There's no privacy. You're bonding with a stranger while squatting over the worst mistake of your dietary life. You try to laugh. No one does. Someone farts instead. That counts. Lunchtime. If you're lucky, there's some dried beans in your pouch. If you're unlucky, there's just weevils. You pretend not to see the bugs. You chew anyway. The cook, who used to be a blacksmith and now hates everyone, hands out soup. It's gray. It tastes like boiled sadness with a hint of bark. You drink it. It's warm. That's the only nice thing you can say about it. You spend the afternoon standing in formation while your officer yells about something he read in a French manual from the last war. You think about the French. You don't really know what they're doing right now, but whatever it is, it's probably better than this. He makes you drill, march forward, pivot left, shoulder arms, fire, reload, fire, reload. You do it all in slow motion because your fingers don't work and your powder is damp and no one can feel their face. You're supposed to be a soldier, a proud example of American grit, but you look like a soggy squirrel holding a stick. Someone's musket misfires and punches them in the shoulder. They fall over. No one laughs. Because that could be any of you. Probably will be. You practice stabbing hay bales with your bayonet. The bale does not look impressed. By sunset, you're exhausted. Your back feels like a twisted ladder. Your shoulders burn. Your legs are noodles made of wood and regret. You're allowed to eat again. More pork, more biscuit. A few people get apples. You'd kill for an apple. You think about it too long. You sit by the fire. If you're close enough to feel heat, you're also close enough to get smoke in your eyes, your nose, and your lungs. So you choose warmth or oxygen. Not both. Someone tells a story. It's probably made up. You don't care. You let it wash over you like the sweet, sweet lie it is. You think about writing a letter, but your hands are too cold, and you don't know what you'd say. Dear Ma, still alive, still damp, still hate everyone. Love, your son. You lie down. Same spot. Same blanket. Same rock digging into your shoulder. You try to shift. It doesn't help. The rock moves with you. You are one now, and as you close your eyes, someone in the camp starts playing a harmonica. Badly. You want to throw your boot at him, but your boot is fused to your foot, and also it's all you have left. So you drift off to the sound of coughing, wheezing, and a harmonica solo from hell. And you dream, not of home, not of glory, but of dry socks. You wouldn't last a day, you think, but you've made it to day 2. Barely. Sleep. We'll try again tomorrow. You wake up hungry, not just a little bit hungry. Not, I skipped breakfast, hungry. You wake up with a deep, gnawing, hollow ache in your belly like your stomach is slowly trying to digest itself just for something to do. You're starving, and you're not alone. Across the camp, everyone else is stirring with the same look in their eyes. That, I'd punch a goat for a biscuit expression. You're surrounded by men who would cheerfully commit a crime for a boiled potato right now. This is the most dangerous time of day. You rub your eyes. Big mistake. Your hands are filthy. Now your eyes are itchy and gritty, but hey, at least it distracts you from your stomach. The air is sharp and cold. You see your breath, but not in a cozy sipping cider on a frosty morning kind of way. More like, oh good, I get to inhale mist and mildew for another 14 hours. Kind of way. You sit up, and your blanket tries to come with you. It's frozen to your coat. You peel it off slowly like you're molting. The damp wool crackles with frost. You are a meat popsicle in uniform. Your boots. Your boots are a crime scene. Last night, you kicked them off because they were so wet they squelched when you blinked. Now they're solid, frozen in place. You bang them against a log. They bounce. Barely. Eventually, after beating them like a misbehaving tool chest, you manage to cram your feet back into the stiff leather. It's like putting your toes into cold clay and then regretting your life choices. Your socks are the consistency of frozen hash browns. Your feet are numb, but you pretend they're not. It's easier that way. Breakfast is called, except breakfast is not a meal. It's a negotiation. You line up behind 15 other skeletons in blue uniforms, hoping the pot has anything left in it. What's for breakfast? Guess. Salt pork. The kind that tastes like sadness and ash. Hardtack. Today, it's especially hard. You try to break it with a rock. The rock loses. Someone mutters that the biscuit is easier to eat if you soak it in whiskey. But no one has whiskey. so you soak it in water instead, which only makes it cold and wet, and now it tastes like damp firewood. You chew, you survive, you move on. You hear rumors. There's always rumors. The British are moving south, or maybe west, or maybe they're not moving at all, and this whole thing is just some kind of elaborate prank being played by God and Congress. One guy swears he saw a message from General Hull. Another guy swears he saw Hull crying. No one knows anything. Except this, you're marching again. You pack your gear, which is just a nice way of saying you pick up your heavy wet bag full of regrets and strap it to your destroyed spine. You grab your musket, which you now call by name. You've named it Disappointment. It's got a flint that doesn't spark, a barrel that barely fires, and it's weighed down by mud. But it's yours, and it might save your life, or it might blow up in your face. Either way, companionship. You fall into line and start moving. Again. The road is slightly better today. Less mud, more frozen dirt. Still bad, but not lose your soul in the swamp bad. You trudge, you shuffle, your legs hurt, your feet are blocks of wood, and your brain checks out completely. You think about food, real food, a hot pie, a roast chicken, bread that doesn't taste like gravel. It's cruel. You haven't seen a vegetable in 2 weeks. If someone handed you a boiled carrot, you'd propose marriage. You pass a dead deer on the road. You look at it too long. You pass a group of men fixing a wagon. They are covered in muck and sadness. You nod at them. They nod back. It's the 1812 version of a high five. At noon, you rest, which means you collapse where you're standing and don't move for 10 minutes. Then someone kicks you because you're too close to the road and a supply cart needs to pass. You move. You don't argue. You haven't had the energy to argue since last Thursday. Lunch? There is no lunch. Lunch is a dream, a hallucination. If you're lucky, there's a small bit of corn mush left in your pouch. You eat it with your fingers. It's cold. It's gritty. You tell yourself it's soup. It's not soup. You keep walking. Eventually, the officer says the word you've been waiting to hear all day. Camp. But don't get excited. Camp just means stop moving and continue being miserable in one place. There's no shelter yet. You have to build it. You drag logs. You curse the cold. You stab at the ground with a shovel that's more rust than metal. You try to light a fire. The twigs are damp. The wind laughs in your face. Someone nearby succeeds. The whole unit crowds around their tiny flame like moths made of wool and failure. You try not to step on anyone's musket. You fail. They yell. You yell back. A private cries. Dinner shows up eventually. A stew. Sort of. It's mostly water with a few floating scraps of meat or maybe root vegetable. Maybe. It tastes like hot disappointment and possibly squirrel. You eat it. Slowly. You savor the warmth. Because that's the only warmth you're going to get. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve. It leaves a streak of grease. That's fine. The sleeve was already ruined. You lie down on the cold earth. You wrap yourself in the same disgusting blanket. You find the same rock under your back. You don't even bother moving it anymore. It's a part of you now. You stare up at the night sky. No stars. Just clouds. Thick and blank, like the inside of your skull at this point. Someone hums a tune nearby. A sad one. You don't know the words, but it somehow feels familiar. Like mud and regret. You drift, and just before sleep takes you, you hear the sound of marching boots far away. British? Militia? A wandering cow? Who cares? Let morning deal with it. You're asleep now, sort of. This is what counts as rest in 1812. You wouldn't last a day. You've made it to day 3. Barely. Good night. You wake up coughing again. This time it hurts more. It's lower in your chest now, like something heavy has taken up residence in your lungs and is charging rent and phlegm. You spit into the snow. It's yellow, possibly green. You squint at it like that'll help. It doesn't. Someone nearby is already puking. Someone else is complaining about their vision going blurry. You nod to both of them like this is normal. Because it is. Welcome to day 6. Breakfast is late. That's the first red flag. The second is that the fire hasn't been lit. The third is that no one's talking. There's just silence. Damp, cold silence, and the occasional wheeze of your own lungs trying to give up. Turns out the supply cart didn't make it. Again. It got stuck in the ice last night and the driver turned back. No supplies today. No breakfast. You chew a button on your coat just to do something. It tastes like dirt and brass and broken promises. You look down and realize your boots are frozen to the ground. Literally. You yank one free. The sound it makes is somewhere between a wet kiss and a dying animal. Your sock comes off with it. You curse gently. You try again. Eventually, you're free. But now one foot is bare, and the snow is laughing. You wrap it in a strip of shirt you tore off yesterday to blow your nose. It smells like your sinuses. You don't care. You're told there's marching again today. Of course there is. Even when there's nowhere to go, there's always somewhere you're supposed to be going. This time it's a hill. Not a big hill. Just tall enough to make your calves cry. You climb. You slip once, twice, then stop counting. Your legs stop working halfway up. You crawl the last few steps. No one says anything. They're doing the same. At the top of the hill, you stop and look around, and see nothing. No British. No enemy camp. No point. Just trees, snow, and a crow that looks like it's judging you. The officer says to set up camp. Again. You're on top of a hill in the wind. You dig a windbreak with a stick. It takes an hour. The stick breaks. You keep going with your hands. You don't feel your fingers. That's either frostbite or a blessing. Lunch is a joke. A few nuts from someone's pouch. He shares them around. You get 3. You chew slowly, like you're eating gold. They crunch loudly. The sound echoes in your empty stomach. You sigh. You hate yourself for missing breakfast that tasted like boiled rope. But here you are. Afternoon brings snow again. It blows sideways. It sneaks into your coat, your collar, your ears. Your eyebrows freeze. Your mustache, if you have one, is now a tiny icicle farm. Dinner is... Wait. There is no dinner. The cook caught frostbite in both hands this morning and can't grip a spoon. He stares at the fire blankly. Someone else tries to help. They spill half the stew. No one blames them. But also, everyone hates them now. You get a single tin mug of stew water. It's mostly hot snow with a whisper of turnip. You drink it anyway. It burns your tongue. You welcome it. You lie down early. There's nothing else to do. The snow is deeper now. You dig a hole and slide into it like a sad marmot. You wrap your wet blanket around you and feel the heat slowly drain from your body into the earth. You pretend that's normal. You stare at the sky. The clouds are back. No stars, no moon. Just gray nothing. You whisper to yourself, tomorrow will be better. It won't. But sometimes lying to yourself is all you've got. You wouldn't last a day. But it's day 6, and you're still here, still coughing, still cold, still miserable. Sleep while you can, because tomorrow is when the British actually show up, and they brought cannons. You wake up screaming, but only in your head. Out loud, you just groan and try to roll over. The ice in your blanket crackles. The mud beneath you squelches like it's tired of being sat on. Your leg cramps halfway through the turn, and you're stuck there, halfway sideways, like a sad, broken doll, someone left out in a snowbank. Your mouth is dry. Your nose is frozen. Your ears hurt just from existing. You are officially 20% frost and 80% despair. Someone nearby is muttering about their foot, something about it being black now. No one looks. No one wants to see it. We've all seen too many feet this week, none of them good. Your own feet are still there. You wiggle your toes just to check. There's a faint tickle of pain. That's good. Pain means you're not dead. Yet. Today is special. Today is battle day. That's what they said last night. Ready your gear, boys. We'll see redcoats tomorrow. You're not ready. Your musket's flint is chipped. Your powder's damp. Your bayonet is dull. Your hands shake. You try not to think about it. You try to focus on breakfast. There is none. The cook is still missing. Probably hiding under a wagon with the rest of the competent men. Someone hands you half a biscuit. You thank them like they just gave you gold. You chew it like gravel. Your gums bleed. You swallow anyway. You clean your weapon, which is generous. You rub mud off the barrel with a frozen rag. You pick bits of last week's stew out of the trigger guard. You check your cartridge pouch. 4 rounds. One of them's definitely wet. You breathe deep. Regret that immediately. You just inhaled someone's foot odor. You line up. Your officer gives a speech. Something about liberty, honor, and George Washington. You're not listening. You're watching the horizon, waiting for the smoke. And then it happens. Distant booms. Real ones this time. You flinch. Someone drops their musket. Another guy vomits. You clutch your weapon and pray it doesn't explode in your hands. The officer yells, "Forward!" So you move. Like cattle, trudging over frozen dirt toward cannon fire. You see smoke up ahead. Gray clouds rolling towards you like the world is exhaling war. You march closer. Then the cannonballs come. You don't see the first one. You hear it. An unholy ripping sound as the air splits open and something massive crashes into the earth 20 feet ahead. It throws mud into the sky. A tree explodes. Someone screams. You keep moving. You can't stop. Stopping means trampled. Stopping means shot. Stopping means dead. A man next to you stumbles. You help him up. You don't know his name. He nods. That's enough. Then the muskets start. Pops and cracks like someone snapping twigs with violent hatred. You see flashes in the woods. Redcoats behind trees. You raise your weapon. You fire. Nothing happens. You curse. You try again. It fires this time. You have no idea if you hit anything. You reload, fumble, spill powder, drop your ramrod, swear again. You hear the officer yelling to charge. You're still loading. People run past you. Someone fires next to your ear. Your hearing goes fuzzy. You finally finish reloading, just in time for the line to collapse. People are running, screaming, falling. You don't know what's happening. Are you winning? Probably not. You see someone lying in the mud. Their leg is gone. Just gone. You step around him. He doesn't blink. You trip, fall flat on your face. Your musket goes flying. You land in cold, bloody slush. You stay down. You crawl to a log, hide behind it. You breathe hard. You shake. You think about crying, but your body's too cold. You reload. You poke your head up. Smoke. Screams. Confusion. You fire blindly. You duck again. You wait and wait. And eventually, the shooting stops. Kind of. You hear the retreat call. You don't even hesitate. You run. Limping, dragging your gear, bleeding from somewhere. You don't care. You just run, back to where you started, back to cold mud and familiar rocks, back to safety, or something close to it. You collapse behind a tree. Your heart pounds, your ears ring, your face is numb, your hands are shaking. You survived. Somehow. You wouldn't last a day. And you nearly didn't. But it's day 7 now. And you're still here. Still cold. Still bleeding. Still alive. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow's for burying the bodies. You wake up to the sound of shovels. Metal scraping dirt. The slow, heavy rhythm of exhausted men digging holes in frozen ground. Not for fire pits, not for latrines, for bodies. You sit up slowly. Every muscle protests. Your chest aches like someone punched you in the soul. Your arms feel like they were replaced with damp wood. Your legs are stiff. Your back is done. It quits. It sent in its resignation sometime during yesterday's retreat. You look around. There's less of you now. You count quietly. 6 men missing from your unit. 2 you watched go down. The rest disappeared in the chaos. Could be dead. Could be wounded. Could be somewhere in the woods yelling at trees. The snow is thin, patchy, and tinged with red in places. No one says much. Words are too heavy today. Breakfast shows up late. It's soup, technically. Mostly hot water and something floating in it. Could be onion, could be boot leather, could be someone's sock. You drink it anyway. It's warm. That's all that matters. Your stomach thanks you by cramping slightly, then growling again 2 minutes later. You hear someone coughing behind you, wet and violent. It keeps going, doesn't stop. You turn and see a man hunched over, blood on his lips. Someone mutters, "Dysentery." You quietly scoot a few inches away. A medic walks by. You use that word loosely. He's not a doctor. He's just the guy with a bag and a bone saw. He checks on the man, nods once, walks away. No treatment. Just acceptance. It's 1812. If you're bleeding from the wrong places, you're already halfway buried. You're told you'll stay put today. No marching. Not because anyone cares about your legs, but because command is confused. Again, they're not sure where the British went, or if that was even the British. You lean against a tree and stare at the sky. It's gray. Of course it is. If you saw a blue sky right now, you'd probably cry. You shift slightly. Your musket digs into your ribs. You're too tired to move it. Someone nearby is pulling their boot off. It doesn't come off. Their sock is fused to their skin. They peel it slowly. You look away. You fail not to gag. Lunch shows up. More soup, more biscuit, more pretending it's fine. You bite into the biscuit and chip a tooth. You spit. Yep, that's definitely enamel. You tuck it into your pouch like a war trophy. You're going to build a necklace of broken body parts by the end of this. Later, the officer shows up again. He looks tired too. Still clean though, which only makes you angrier. He says to prepare for movement tomorrow. No one groans. Groaning takes energy. Instead, everyone just kind of slumps slightly. You spend the afternoon patching your coat with a torn glove. Someone asks you to help sew a button. You tell them you can't feel your fingers. They nod. Fair. Dinner is more stew. You recognize a potato chunk. You almost cry. It's soft. It's warm. It tastes like hope. You savor it for 5 minutes. Then it's gone. So is the hope. The wind picks up after sundown. It's loud. It howls through the trees like it's mocking you. You lie down under your blanket, the one that smells like mildew and lost dreams. You stare at the sky, still gray, still blank. You close your eyes, but you don't sleep, because someone nearby is shivering so violently you can hear their teeth chattering. You offer them part of your blanket. They take it without speaking. You both lie there, cold, silent, together, and you think, not for the first time, about why you're even here. Not about glory, not about country. Just here, because someone told you to be. Because someone handed you a gun and said, walk that way. Because there was nothing better to do. You wouldn't last a day. But it's day 8, and you're still breathing. Barely. Close your eyes. Try not to think about tomorrow. Tomorrow might be worse. You wake up to the smell of something cooking. Your brain immediately panics. That's not normal. That's suspicious. That's probably a hallucination. But no, there it is again. A warm, greasy smell wafting through the fog like a memory you don't trust. You sit up. It's still cold. Still wet. Still 1812. But someone, somehow, is frying something over a fire. You limp closer, cautiously, like an abused raccoon approaching a garbage can. It's meat. Actual meat. Not dried. Not salted beyond recognition. Fresh. Someone says they caught a rabbit. Someone else says it was already dead. No one clarifies. You take a bite. It's chewy. Slightly burnt. Smells like smoke and fur. It's the best thing you've eaten in a month. You eat too fast. Immediately regret it. Your stomach rebels. You lean over and breathe deeply for several minutes just to keep it down. Worth it. The officer shows up with a map. It's wrinkled, smudged, probably upside down. He says, you're going to advance today. South, toward a fort. Maybe British, maybe abandoned. He says you'll be marching light. You glance at your gear. Light is easy when you own nothing. You pack up. Again. Your bedroll smells like old soup. Your boots squish when you walk. Your shirt has 2 working buttons. You count them every morning for morale. You fall into line. You start marching. This part of the country is wet. Always wet. The dirt never dries. The trees drip long after the rain stops. Even your soul feels soggy. You slip down a hill and land in something that smells like swamp and failure. You don't even swear anymore. You just lie there for a moment, letting gravity win. Then you get up. Again. You hear frogs. Loud ones. One jumps across your foot. You almost scream. You step over another. You look down and realize you're not walking through a trail. You're walking through a shallow marsh. There's a snake. It ignores you, probably out of pity. By midday, you're soaked. Not from rain, from everything. Sweat, fog, mud, regret. Someone says this place breeds fever. Someone else says they already have it. You take a deep breath. Regret it. The air smells like stagnant water and rotting leaves. Lunch is a handful of crushed nuts from someone's bag. You chew them slowly, trying to stretch them into the illusion of a meal. They don't help. You keep walking. Your socks have disintegrated completely. Now it's just raw foot versus damp leather. Your skin blisters and splits with every step. The guy in front of you limps so badly you can see bone through his heel. No one says anything. Pain is boring now. You reach higher ground before dusk. A patch of dry earth. It's beautiful, almost holy. You sit on it like a man who's just seen God. Dinner is salt pork. You don't ask where it came from. You just eat it. You fall asleep with your coat draped over your face to block the mosquitoes. It doesn't work. You wake up 3 times just to slap your own ears. Eventually, you stop bothering. You stare at the stars. They're back tonight, twinkling, bright, mocking you gently. You think of home, of warmth, of clean clothes, of a roof. You wouldn't last a day. But here you are. Day 9, alive, barely. Sleep tight. Don't let the lice bite. They will. They always do. You wake up with something crawling on your neck. It's small. It's fast. It disappears into your collar before you can react. You try not to panic. You're used to it by now. You sit up and feel another one skitter down your back. You slap at it. It's gone. You sigh. You're not alone. The lice are back. Or maybe they never left. You scratch your ribs, then your neck, then your scalp. By the end of the week, you'll have open sores from this. But right now, you just need to make the itching stop long enough to eat. Speaking of which, breakfast. It's there, sort of. Someone's boiled what might be oats, or might be bark, into a paste. It's gray, like everything else in your life now. You eat it anyway. You swallow each bite with effort, like you're chewing wet plaster, and you don't want to make a scene. You gag once. The guy next to you pats your back and says, "Better than yesterday." You nod. That's a lie. Today, you're ordered to dig. Not trenches. Not even latrines. A road. Apparently, the wagons are stuck again. And instead of going around, you're building a path through the woods. You're handed a shovel. It weighs more than your rifle. You dig. The ground is half mud, half ice. Your boots sink with every step. You swing. You scoop. You swear. The mud resists. You break your shovel handle before noon. You keep digging with your hands. Your fingernails tear. You bleed a little. You keep going. Nobody complains anymore. Not out loud. By lunch, you're so tired your arms barely move. Lunch is a biscuit that might have come from last winter. It has mold on it. you flick the mold off and eat it anyway. It's crunchy. It shouldn't be. You wash it down with warm canteen water that tastes like old socks. The officer checks in. He smiles. He says you're making progress. You hate him with your whole soul. You dig faster just to spite him. Mid-afternoon, it starts raining. Cold rain. Thin, miserable droplets that fall straight down and soak into your skin before you can even swear at the sky. Your shirt clings to you like a curse. The mud deepens. Your hands ache. You want to cry, but your tear ducts are dry. Dinner is late. The stew's thin. It's mostly turnip water, but someone found pepper. You cry actual tears over the taste of pepper. It feels like eating something real. You sip it slowly. You burn your tongue. You don't care. After dinner, someone plays a harmonica. You didn't know anyone had one. The sound is thin, weak, barely music. But it's something. A handful of men hum along. You close your eyes. You picture a fireplace. Not a war, not marching, not rotting blankets and frostbite. Just a chair and bread and quiet. Then someone coughs violently nearby. Blood again. The spell breaks. You lie down in your coat, your shirt still wet. Your feet throb, your head pounds. The rain is still falling. You itch, you shiver. You're tired, bone deep tired. But you're here. You wouldn't last a day. But somehow it's day 10. And you're still alive. So congratulations. You get to do it again tomorrow. You wake up to someone screaming. It's early, still dark, still raining. But someone's yelling. A full-throated, soul-leaving-the-body kind of yell. You sit up. Everything hurts. You're soaked. Again. Your coat sticks to your back like cold glue. You crawl toward the sound. You find a man near the fire, or what's left of it. His boot is off. His foot is bad. It's black at the toes, blue around the heel. The skin is cracked open like old leather. There's pus. You try not to gag. The medic shows up. Same one as always. No tools, no books. Just a saw and a steady hand. The foot's coming off. He says it calmly, like he's talking about trimming a branch. No anesthesia. Just a bottle of whiskey and a stick to bite. You step back as it begins. You don't watch. You listen. The sound is wet, crackling, grinding. It goes on too long. Eventually, it stops. The man passes out. The medic tosses the foot into a nearby ditch like it's trash. You stare at it. It's still in a sock. That might be the worst part. You turn away. You haven't eaten yet, and now you won't. Your stomach curls up like a frightened animal. You walk away from camp for a while. You find a log and sit on it. You stare at your own boots. You try to wiggle your toes. You feel most of them. That's good enough. You head back. Breakfast is hardtack and something gray that may have once been meat. You eat anyway. There's no pleasure anymore. Only maintenance. You chew slowly. You hear more coughing. You count. At least 4 men sound worse than yesterday. One is coughing blood into a cloth. Another can't speak without gasping. You know where this goes. You wonder if they know too. The officer calls you over. He needs a runner, someone to deliver a message to the next camp. 15 miles through mud and woods. You volunteer. Not because you're brave, because it means walking alone. Quiet. No screams, no smells, no amputations, just trees. You set off with the letter tucked in your coat. The woods are dark, wet, endless. The mud pulls at your boots. Your feet squish. Your thighs burn. You keep walking. You see tracks, maybe a bear, maybe something worse. You hold your musket tighter. You hear something in the bushes. You freeze. A squirrel darts out. You exhale. Then you sneeze, loud, wet. The squirrel screams and runs. You keep going. By midday, you're soaked again. Your pack leaks. Your coat smells like wet dog and soup. You reach the other camp. It's worse than yours. More tense. More moaning. The man you hand the letter to doesn't look up. He just mutters, "Too late anyway." You don't ask. You don't want to know. You turn back. The march is longer going home. Your legs cramp. Your socks feel like wet bandages. You fall once. Land in mud. Don't bother wiping it off. You get back by dark. Someone asks where you went. You grunt. Dinner is stew. This one has beans. Real beans. You savor them one by one like little miracles. Then it's night. You lie on your side. Your toes ache. You scratch at your scalp. You cough once, twice. You pray it's not the start. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 11, and you're still here, and you still have all your feet. For now. Sleep. Tomorrow you dig graves. Again. You wake up coughing again. A deep, dragging cough. One that starts in your chest and feels like it's trying to crawl up your spine and escape through your teeth. You sit up slow. Every part of your body makes a different noise. Your back pops. Your knees crack. Your stomach groans. Your skin itches. You're alive, technically. Your blanket is frozen to the ground again. You peel it off like a bandage. It takes some skin with it. You grunt. At this point, pain is just background music. Breakfast is not great. They're calling it cornmeal mush, but it tastes like it was soaked in sadness. It's gray, sloppy, room temperature. You eat it with your fingers because someone stole the spoons again. You don't ask. You never do. A man in your unit hasn't moved in 2 days. He's breathing, barely, but his eyes don't focus anymore. He just lies there, wrapped in whatever rags he has left. Sometimes he mumbles. You think he's talking to his mother, or God, or a horse. No one's sure. The medic saw him yesterday and just shook his head. "No point," he said, then walked off. You don't know the man's name. You think he might have been from Ohio, or New York, or maybe he's always been here. A permanent part of the camp now, like the mud or the cold. You stretch. Your ribs crack. You try to stand up. Your knees give out the first time. You try again. The second time works. That's how progress works in this war. Fail once, then barely succeed. Today's orders are simple. Dig more graves. There were 7 deaths yesterday. 3 in the field. 4 in the tents. You're out of wood for coffins, so it's the quick burial kind of day. You grab a shovel with a broken handle and follow the others to the clearing. The ground is stiff, half frozen, half sludge. You dig anyway. You don't talk. The only sound is the shovel hitting mud and the occasional grunt. One of the bodies is light. Too light. You try not to think about it. Lunch is dry bread that's gone soft from your canteen leaking in your pouch. You eat it anyway. Someone says they saw a rat this morning, bigger than a cat, sitting near the latrines, just watching. You make a joke about how maybe it'll enlist and help with the trenches. No one laughs. You didn't expect them to. Afternoon brings rain, because of course it does. Not a storm, just a slow, miserable drizzle that seeps through every layer of fabric you have. You try to patch a hole in your sock with twine. It doesn't help. The hole gets bigger. You tie it into a knot and pretend you fixed something. Your left foot squishes with every step. Dinner is pork fat boiled in water. It slides down your throat like warm glue. Someone offers you a piece of old cheese. You cry a little. Then you eat it. It tastes like a sock. You love it anyway. The officer makes an appearance. He talks about reinforcements. Says they're coming. Says they're bringing new supplies. Better shoes, more food. You nod. You all do. You've heard it before. You'll hear it again. Reinforcements are always coming. Just like spring, or peace, or the end of this nightmare. You lie down early. You pull your blanket over your head to block the mosquitoes. They find you anyway. You swat lazily at your ear. Miss it, try again. Give up. You scratch your thigh. Your hand comes back bloody. You stare at it. Then you wipe it on your coat. You close your eyes. You wouldn't last a day. But it's day 12. And you're still here. It's not bravery. It's not strength. It's just that no one gave you the option to quit. Sleep, if you can. Tomorrow's a marching day, and your feet already know it. You wake up to the sound of boots sloshing. Not walking. Sloshing. Because the rain never stopped. The camp has turned into a swamp. Your bedroll is floating slightly. That's probably fine. You sit up. Your spine cracks like a tree limb. Your back is one stiff sheet of regret. Someone says, "Marching orders today." You nod. You already knew. You knew because your right boot was leaking before you even stood up. You eat your breakfast while standing, because the mud stole your last dry place to sit. Breakfast is nothing. They're out of everything. No hardtack, no biscuit, no cornmeal. Just a little bit of boiled water with some ash floating in it. You sip it and pretend it's tea. It burns your throat. You feel nothing. You line up with the rest. The officer waves his hand dramatically like he's in a painting. "South," he says. You don't ask why. South just means not here. And that's good enough. You start walking. The mud grabs at your boots like it's trying to keep you from making more mistakes. It fails. You cross a creek. Well, what used to be a creek. Now it's a roiling flood of brown water and panic. The bridge is gone. Just a few logs remain. The officer says, "Use those." You stare at him. He's not joking. One man tries first. He slips, goes under, comes up again, barely, coughing and flailing. Someone throws a rope. They drag him out. He throws up all over himself. You all cheer half-heartedly, because that's what counts as a win now. Your turn. You step onto a log. It wobbles. You curse every choice that brought you here. You shuffle across. One foot, then the other. You make it. You kiss the ground. It tastes like mud and worms and victory. Then you keep walking. All day. Over hills, through puddles, past trees that all look the same. Someone ahead says they smell smoke. The officer says it's enemy movement. You say it's probably just your hopes catching fire. No one laughs. Midday, you stop for a rest. Lunch is still nothing. One guy pulls a bit of salted pork out of his sock. He offers you a piece. You don't ask why it was in his sock. You chew slowly. You pretend it's steak. You try not to think about his foot. You pass a dead deer. It's been picked clean. Flies buzz lazily. Someone kicks it. You move on. By late afternoon, the rain starts again. This time it's sideways, stinging, cold, inescapable. You try to use your coat for cover. It doesn't help. The rain laughs. You arrive at what used to be a town. It's empty now. Just foundations and 2 chimneys. You set up camp next to a burnt wall. The wind blows straight through it. You huddle behind a wagon with a few others. Someone pulls out a pipe, lights it. You all lean in like it's a fireplace. You take a puff. It burns your throat and makes your eyes water. But it's warm. Dinner is found. A single sack of oats from the wagon, boiled into paste. Everyone gets a spoonful. You swallow yours without chewing. Then you lie down on what might be floorboards, or might be broken barrel planks. Hard to tell. You close your eyes. Your toes twitch. Your nose is running. Your fingers sting. Your boots are wet inside and out. But you're still breathing. You wouldn't last a day. But it's day 13, and you're still here, and tomorrow's only 20 miles of this. Sleep, if the rats let you. You wake up with a boot in your face, not on purpose. There's just no space left. You'd all packed in last night under what used to be a collapsed shed, and now your head is nestled directly between someone's boots and a moldy sack of potatoes. The sack smells better. You sit up slowly, and every muscle in your body feels like it's been pickled in its own soreness. Your knees creak, your elbows snap, and your back lets out a quiet crunch that sounds like something important gave up. It's not raining this morning. That's a cruel trick, because the air is still wet. Not just damp, wet. Like the whole sky took a bath in your lungs overnight. You're sweating, but you're also freezing. Your blanket, stiff with last night's frost, is more decorative than functional. You peel it off, shivering, and immediately wish you hadn't. The cold hits your skin like a slap from God. Your shirt sticks to your ribs, still soaked from yesterday. Your boots squish with every step, though you haven't stepped anywhere yet. Somehow, they stayed wet, even while you slept. You think about how much of your life now revolves around your boots being wet. It's not a deep thought, just a persistent one. There's some shouting near the wagons. One of the quartermasters is arguing with the officer about food, or rather, the absence of it. Apparently, one of the barrels of salt pork turned out to be half maggots and the other half bones. Someone asks if the bones are at least fresh. No one laughs. The officer mutters something about stretching rations. You stretch your legs instead and feel a Charlie horse immediately punish you for trying to be ambitious. You spend the next 5 minutes limping in circles like a man who's forgotten how legs work. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is what they're calling field porridge, which is a polite word for warm gray sludge. It tastes like boiled regret. Someone tries to add a pinch of something from a pocket tin. You smell it. Maybe pepper. Maybe mold. Either way, it makes the porridge slightly less unbearable. You eat your 10 cups worth with the reverence of a man savoring his last meal. It's not your last meal. You hope. but it's the kind of meal that makes you think you wouldn't mind if it were. Today's marching orders come mid-morning. South again. Always south. You don't know where exactly. You don't think the officers do either. But they point, and you walk. That's the arrangement. You pack up what little you have, your bedroll, your soggy coat, your flintlock musket that you've named Betsy, just to have someone to talk to, and fall into line. The column starts moving. You follow, boots squishing with every step, socks bunched up into wrinkled misery around your ankles. You lost one toenail 3 days ago. Another one's turning purple. You think it might come off in your sleep. That would be a mercy. The path ahead is overgrown and soft. Every few steps, someone sinks up to their shin in mud. One man loses a boot entirely and has to dig it out with his bare hands. You watch him for a moment, kneeling in the muck, grunting as he tugs at the earth, and wonder if that's a metaphor for this whole war. Then you remember you haven't eaten real food in 3 days, and that thinking is a luxury. You look back at your boots. Still wet, still heavy, you keep walking. By noon, the clouds roll in. Not thunderheads, just thick, low fog that presses down on everything like a damp wool blanket. Visibility drops to maybe 10 paces. The man in front of you becomes a vague shape. The man behind you coughs every 30 seconds like clockwork. You time your steps to it. Forward, cough, forward, cough, forward. You forget your own rhythm and just follow his. It's almost comforting in a sick way. Eventually, you hear voices ahead. An officer yelling something. Then the column stops. You stumble into the man in front of you. He doesn't react. You all stand there, in the mud, in the fog, in silence. 10 minutes pass. Someone whispers that the scouts got lost. Someone else whispers back that the scouts are dead. A third voice says they probably just wandered off because they're smarter than the rest of you. No one disagrees. Eventually, the order comes to make camp right there on the trail. Not because it's safe, because it's too foggy to go anywhere else. You drop your gear, squat in a puddle, and stare at your feet for a while. There's nothing else to do. Dinner is passed around. A few hard crackers and something from a jar that smells vaguely like fish. You chew slowly. Very slowly. You want to taste every molecule of this mistake. Night comes early in fog like this. The light just fades out, like someone dimmed the world. You huddle under your coat, curled around your musket, trying to keep your ribs from clattering together in the cold. Somewhere nearby, someone is humming. It's off-key. It might be a lullaby. It might just be madness. You don't care. It's the closest thing to music you've heard in weeks. You let it carry you off. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 14. And you're still here. Still cold. Still coughing. Still listening to that terrible humming in the dark. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow, you'll climb a hill. For no reason at all. And you'll do it with a fever. You wake up sweating. That's the first red flag. Not a little warm, dripping. Your shirt clings to you like someone dumped soup on your chest. But it's cold outside. Bitter, biting cold. The kind of cold that usually makes your nose crust over. But not today. Today, you're cooking from the inside out. You sit up, and the world tilts slightly to the left. That's the second red flag. You blink. Everything has a faint shimmer, like you're underwater, or dreaming, or already dead and just too tired to realize it. You try to stand. Your legs don't cooperate. They feel far away, like borrowed limbs someone forgot to return in full working order. You stagger upright anyway, holding onto the stump next to you like it's your last friend on earth. You cough. It's wet. Deep. A whole body kind of cough. You lean forward and spit something thick onto the frozen ground. You squint at it. It might have been a piece of your lung. Could be sap. Could be part of that rat you saw last night in your dreams. Or maybe in your boots. Hard to say. Breakfast is someone handing you a cup of hot water and calling it broth. You sip it. It tastes like metal and leaf mold. You don't complain. You don't have the energy. Someone nearby is singing. It's not a good song. You're pretty sure the lyrics are made up. Beans and boots, dig a hole, die in roots. It's the worst thing you've ever heard, but you hum along. You hum because if you don't, you might fall face first into the fire and not get back up. Marching today, the officer says. Just a short distance, a few miles. A hill, some trees, maybe an enemy, maybe nothing. Doesn't matter. Orders are orders. You pack up. You try to shoulder your musket. You miss and hit yourself in the head. You blink, shake it off, say nothing. You fall into line. Every step feels like you're sinking through sand. You sweat and shiver at the same time. You're too hot and too cold and too angry to care. The trees start to blur together. You trip over a root. You hit the ground. Someone helps you up. You say thank you to a face you don't recognize. It might be a tree. It might be your father. You keep walking. You hear buzzing in your ears. Not flies, just your own fever. It pulses like a wasp nest behind your eyes. Eventually, you reach the hill. It's not steep, not big, but right now, it looks like a mountain. The officer says, "Climb it." You look at him like he's asking you to fly. But you climb, because what else are you going to do? You crawl most of it. Your musket drags behind you like a dead limb. Your boots slip, your knees buckle. You reach the top and collapse. You lie there, face down in pine needles. You smell dirt and old sap and something slightly sweet. You smile. You think, this could be a good place to die. Then someone yells, "Up! Formation!" You groan. You roll over. You look around. There's no enemy, no tents, no fort. Just more forest. They made you climb a hill to look at trees. You laugh. Out loud. A short, wheezing, barking laugh. The kind of laugh that ends in a cough and maybe a little blood. The man next to you slaps your back, says, "Save your breath." We're heading back down. You want to punch him. You want to cry. You want to lie in the snow and wait for the war to go away. But instead, you roll onto your knees and start crawling down the same hill you just climbed. It starts snowing. Of course it does. Big, wet flakes that melt into your hair and stick to your eyebrows. You blink against them. You mutter something unholy under your breath. By the time you get back to camp, your fever's worse. Your teeth chatter even though you're sweating through your coat. Dinner is squirrel stew. Maybe. It's thin, greasy. Smells like someone boiled leather with regret. You drink it anyway. You throw it up 10 minutes later. You lie in the dirt. Curl into yourself. Shake. Someone puts a blanket over you. It's damp. You thank them anyway. You close your eyes. The buzzing gets louder. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 15, and you're still breathing. Barely. Your socks are crusted in mud. Your fingers are purple. Your dreams are starting to talk back. Sleep. If you can. Tomorrow, the real cold begins. You wake up because your teeth are chattering so hard it echoes in your skull. Not just cold, ice cold, bone deep cold. The kind that slips under your skin like a knife and makes you wonder if this is what death feels like. You open your eyes. There's frost on your eyebrows. Your blanket is stiff. Your shirt is stuck to your chest, and not in a cozy way. You try to move your toes and feel nothing. Not pain, not warmth, just nothing. You wiggle them anyway. They don't wiggle back. You sit up slowly. Everything hurts. Your back pops like a frozen branch. Your fingers feel like glass. You reach for your boots and realize your laces are frozen solid. You spit on them. It freezes instantly. Good morning. Someone across the camp is trying to start a fire. They're swearing. Loudly. The wood's wet. The wind's mean. Sparks vanish into the air before they can do anything useful. You don't offer help. You just watch. Like it's a play, and you've already seen this act a dozen times. Breakfast doesn't exist today. The fire didn't catch, and the last of the biscuit rations were gone yesterday. One man found an onion at the bottom of his sack. He sliced it into quarters and shared it like it was gold. You get a bite. You chew it like it's steak. It burns. Your eyes water. You still consider licking your fingers afterward for the taste. Today's orders. Hold position, which is officer talk for sit in the cold and wait for your soul to leak out. You shuffle around the perimeter. Your job is to watch the trees and look intimidating. You try, but it's hard to look intimidating when your nose is running, your hands are stuffed in your armpits, and your rifle won't fire because the powder's damp again. Someone near you sneezes so hard they drop their musket. It lands barrel first in the snow. They stare at it for a long moment. Then they pick it up and mutter something about just throwing it at the enemy instead. By midday, the wind picks up. The kind of wind that slices. It howls through the trees like it's angry at you personally. It finds every hole in your coat, every tear in your leggings, every exposed inch of skin. It fills your ears with noise and your heart with dread. You feel your lips crack when you try to talk. You stop trying. Someone says his canteen exploded this morning, just split open from the ice. Water turned to sharp-edged ice blocks and burst the seams. He shows you the gash on his hand. You nod like you care, but you're mostly thinking about how thirsty you are. You check your own canteen. The ice inside doesn't move. You hold it in your hands, trying to thaw it just enough to get a sip. It takes an hour. The water's still freezing when it hits your tongue. You drink it anyway, then immediately regret it, because now your insides are as cold as your outsides. Dinner is called. That's funny. There's no food, but they call it anyway. You sit around a small fire someone finally coaxed to life and pass around a pot of something they call soup. It's mostly boiled bark and wild grass. Someone added a pinch of salt. You think. It's hard to tell. Your taste buds gave up days ago. You sip carefully. The steam feels like heaven on your face. You breathe it in, pretending it's a hot meal. Then you taste it and wish you hadn't. That night, someone complains about a toothache, says it's been throbbing for days. Can't sleep, can't chew. The medic says it's got to come out. There's no anesthesia, just a knife, a pair of metal pliers, and a few strong arms. You watch from a distance. The man screams once, then faints. The tooth comes out anyway. It hits the snow with a soft thunk. Someone says, "Nice clean pull." Someone else says, "Let me know when it's my turn." You stare at your own mouth for a while. You feel your teeth with your tongue. One of them wiggles a little. You pretend it doesn't. You curl up that night with your coat pulled over your head. Your blanket doesn't help. The cold still gets in. It's always there. In your bones, in your teeth, in your thoughts. You close your eyes. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 16, and you still have most of your teeth. Sleep if you can. You've earned it. Tomorrow someone will lose a toe. And it might be you. You wake up with your fingers jammed under your arms for warmth and your knees tucked to your chest. At some point in the night, you curled into a ball so tight your spine feels like a question mark. You blink against the weak morning light and try to stretch, but your limbs argue back. Your joints snap like old rope. Your hands throb. Your feet don't feel like feet, just stubs. Wet, pulpy stubs. Someone kicks snow onto your blanket. You grumble. They apologize. You both pretend to care. Today's temperature is somewhere between your breath turns to crystals and you wonder if you're still alive. The wind is sharp, not loud, just enough to slice through fabric and rub your skin raw. The air smells like cold wood smoke and old leather, and something else, something burnt. Breakfast? Not today. The last barrel of oats had worms, so now it's just fasting for liberty. Someone says that like it's a joke. No one laughs. You try to stand. Your legs don't cooperate at first. They're stiff, like they belong to someone else. It takes 2 tries to get vertical. You wobble. You grab a tree. The tree doesn't mind. An officer appears and announces frostbite inspections. You sigh. They call it preventative, which is funny because there's no prevention happening. It's just a man with cold fingers peeling your socks back to see which toes still look human and which ones look like old grapes. You watch as the man 2 spots ahead of you takes off his boots and 3 of his toes stay inside the wool. He doesn't scream, just stares. When it's your turn, you hold your breath. You untie your boot. Slowly, carefully, you pull off the sock. The medic looks, he pokes, you wince. That's good. Pain means you can still feel. He grunts, says you're lucky. You don't feel lucky. You feel like a sack of wet potatoes with better posture. They wrap your feet in rags and send you off, back into the line. Today's march is short, only a few miles. Not because the weather's good, but because the officer forgot which way was north. He points, says, "That way." You all turn and follow, even though you're pretty sure you passed that same crooked tree stump 3 times last week. Midday, the snow thickens. It's not flakes anymore. It's clumps, heavy wet globs that slap your face like soggy insults. The trail vanishes under white. You follow boot prints until they disappear. Then you just guess. Someone falls into a ditch, not deep, just embarrassing. You pull him out, his legs scraped, his pride's broken. He says thanks. You nod. Nobody jokes about it. It's too cold for humor. By afternoon, the sun comes out, which would be good news if it didn't reflect off the snow and stab you directly in the eyeballs. Snow blindness. It's real. It's brutal. You squint. You pull your hat down. You rub your eyes. Nothing helps. The light is everywhere, bouncing, flashing, turning the whole world into a searing white blur. The man next to you says he can't see. You believe him. He walks straight into a tree. You march slower. You trip more. Your feet are wet. Again, dinner is bark tea and something gray. You don't ask what it is. You chew it. It crunches once. You hope it was a twig. You sit near the fire after sundown. It's small, just enough for 8 people to hover around like moths. Your coat smells like smoke, but not in a nice way. More like burnt hair and cold sweat. Someone starts telling a story about his farm. Corn. Chickens. A woman who used to bake pies. You stop listening halfway through because your brain is floating just above your head. You nod anyway. You don't want to be rude. You lie down with your boots still on. It's easier than peeling off frozen laces. Your breath fogs up the inside of your coat. You shiver. Your legs twitch. You hear someone groan in their sleep. You wouldn't last a day, but this is day 17. And your toes, miraculously, are still attached. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow, there's a blizzard, and you'll be marching right through it. You wake up, but it takes a moment to realize it. Everything is white, blinding, flat white. It's not heaven. You're not dead. You're just inside a blizzard. The wind howls like it's alive. Not a gentle whisper through the trees. Not even a strong breeze. This is the kind of wind that wants to peel your skin off and scatter your regrets across the snowdrifts. You blink through it, but your eyelashes are stuck together with frost. Someone says, "Get up." You roll over and whimper. A boot nudges your ribs. Up. You rise slowly, like an old barn collapsing in slow motion. Your coat is stiff with ice. Your knees click. Your hands are wrapped in what used to be a shirt. You made mittens last night with twine and desperation. You forgot to dry them by the fire. So now they're just stiff cotton tubes full of regret. Breakfast is a joke today. A literal joke. Someone offers you a pine cone and says it's winter jerky. You laugh, then you cough, then you taste blood. The joke wasn't that funny anyway. Marching starts early. No one knows why. Visibility's less than 10 feet. The trail's buried, and the officer is shouting over the wind like he has any idea what's happening. You follow the man ahead of you, who's following the man ahead of him, who is absolutely lost. The snow is deep now, past your knees. Every step is a struggle. You lift your legs like you're wading through cold glue. Your boots are soaked. Your toes scream. Then they go quiet. That's worse. Someone disappears. Just gone. Was there one more man 10 minutes ago? You think so. Maybe. You can't be sure. The wind eats sound. The snow hides footprints. You shout his name. Or someone's name. No one hears. By midday, you stop marching. Mostly because the column just stops. The officer says it's tactical repositioning. You say it's, "We can't see a thing," and someone just froze standing up. You huddle in a half circle, backs to the wind, trying to share body heat without admitting it. You chew on something chewy. It might be meat. It might be old boot leather boiled into soup. The flavor says barn floor. The texture says don't ask. A man near you drops his mitten. Just one. He reaches for it. He picks it up. Then he stares at his hand. His thumb is purple. Hard. He doesn't say anything. He just shakes his head and puts the mitten back on. You both know what's coming. Frostbite doesn't forgive. You keep your hands tucked into your coat. You flex your fingers every few minutes, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. Pain means there's still blood in there. You hope. By late afternoon, someone tries to light a fire. The wind snuffs it out 3 times. On the 4th try, it takes. Barely. You all huddle close. even the officer. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. The snow piles up around your legs. Someone farts loudly. You all laugh. The fire cracks. It's the first warmth you've felt in a week. Dinner is another stew. Someone says it's squirrel. Someone else says it's just roots and lies. You eat it anyway. You watch the wind whip through the trees. You wonder if the snow will bury you in your sleep. You wouldn't mind. You're so tired. You pull your blanket over your head. You breathe slowly, carefully. Each breath fogs up the inside of your coat. You close your eyes. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 18, and you haven't frozen solid yet. That's something. Sleep, if you can. Tomorrow, they'll try to build a shelter out of broken wagons and pure denial. You wake up under a collapsed blanket of snow. Not in your blanket, not under your blanket. Under snow. That's the first thing you register. That weird, heavy pressure on your chest. Like the sky took a nap on you. You open your mouth. Snow falls in. You sputter. Sit up. Your spine cracks like ice under a wagon wheel. You're buried up to your waist. You look around. Everyone else is too. Some are still asleep. Some aren't. Some are just pretending they didn't notice the weather has committed a crime. It snowed all night. Thick, wet, heavy snow. And your fire pit? Gone. Buried. Frozen. Useless. Your boots? Packed solid. You reach for one and spend 15 minutes chipping the ice off it with your knife. You put it on. Your foot screams. You ignore it. The officers got a new plan today. You're not marching. Because nobody can. Today is Build a Fort Day. Not a real fort. Not even close. You're supposed to build lean-tos from broken wagon parts, pine branches, and whatever's not frozen solid. You stare at the officer while he talks. He says the word shelter like it's a magical solution. Like a few sticks and a canvas tarp are going to save you from nature trying to kill you in slow motion. You and 3 others are assigned a corner of the clearing. You get one axe. It's dull. You take turns hacking pine branches. One man misses and hits his foot. He swears. He says he's fine. He's not. You build a frame, sort of. It leans to the left. It groans when the wind picks up. You throw some tarp over it, then pin it down with rocks. The whole thing looks like a dying moose rolled over in a pile of trash and gave up. You sit under it anyway, because it's better than standing. The wind dies down for about 20 minutes mid-afternoon. Just enough for someone to yell, "Let's have music." You blink. You look over. Someone's got a fiddle. An actual fiddle. You don't know where it came from, or why. But suddenly there's the sound of strings, off-key, slightly frozen, and someone stomping along in rhythm with a wet sock and a prayer. It's horrible. It's wonderful. It's the best thing you've heard in a month. A few men clap. One guy tries to dance. His leg cramps. He falls. No one helps him up. Too cold. But we all nod in appreciation. You try to smile. Your lips crack. You taste blood. Totally worth it. Dinner is a stew again. Worse this time. Someone added pine bark to stretch it. You chew. It tastes like boiled belt. You eat every bite, because the alternative is eating nothing. After dinner, someone tells a story. A ghost tale. Something about a soldier whose soul froze solid and now haunts the woods. You stare into the fire, watching it spit sparks into the wind. You think about your toes. Maybe they'll haunt someone someday too. You lie down under your tarp lean-to. The roof drips. The floor is frozen. You use your coat as a pillow and your dreams as insulation. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 19, and you didn't collapse the shelter yet. Sleep, if you can. Tomorrow they're sending scouts to look for food, and you might be one of them. You wake up because someone's poking your shoulder, not gently, not politely, the kind of poke that says, "Hey, you might be alive. Get up and prove it." You peel open your eyes. The tarp above your head has collapsed in again. It's drooping like a sad old curtain full of wet regrets. Your breath fogs in the cold morning air. You've stopped being surprised by the cold. It's just always there now, like background music or a rash. The man poking you is a scout, says you've been picked to join a foraging team. You nod without thinking. It's too early to argue. Too early to feel anything except the sharp sting of air in your lungs and the familiar pain in your knees when you sit up. You crawl out of the tarp lean-to and into a world that looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. White, gray, and miserable. Your boots are frozen again. You thaw them with your hands for 5 minutes before you can jam your feet in. The left one crunches. You don't want to know why. You grab your musket. You don't expect to shoot anything with it. You just need it in case something tries to shoot you. You set off into the woods with 3 others. No clear plan, just go that way and find something edible. You walk for hours. It's quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring. The snow muffles everything. Your own footsteps sound like distant whispers. One man tries to whistle. His lips crack and start bleeding. You find squirrel tracks, fresh ones. Someone raises their musket. The squirrel appears. It's fat, it's fast. It vanishes. You all stand there staring at the empty spot like it owes you an apology. You press on. An hour later, you find a bush with tiny berries. Red, round, suspicious. One man picks one and sniffs it, then he eats it. You all wait. He burps. You wait longer. He says, "Tastes like soap." You nod. Nobody eats more. A little later, you find a bird. Dead, frozen solid. No head, still warm at the center. Maybe a hawk dropped it. Maybe it died of shame. You argue briefly about whether it's worth carrying back. Eventually, you wrap it in a rag and shove it in a pouch. You call it dinner. On the way back, you find tracks, not animal. Boots. You freeze. No one speaks. You all crouch low, listening. The woods are silent again. Maybe they're your own tracks. Maybe not. You follow them a little. Then you decide you've followed them enough. You turn around and head back to camp. By the time you arrive, the sun is down. The fire is low. The stew is boiling. You drop the headless bird into the pot without ceremony. Someone stirs it in. You sit down. You take off your boots. Steam rises from your socks. You don't know if that's good. You stare into the flames. Dinner is better than usual, which is not saying much. The meat's chewy, gamey, but you keep chewing. At least it's not soup made of boots and pine cones. Someone coughs hard enough to spill their tin. No one flinches. You're all too tired to flinch. Later, someone pulls out a deck of cards, tattered, damp, and missing the king of hearts. You play anyway. It doesn't matter what game. Just something to do with your hands while your mind slips into a slower rhythm. Eventually, You lie down again under your tarp. The bird was real. The fire is still crackling. Your feet are thawed. Barely. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 20, and you bagged a one-wing dinner. Sleep, if you can. Tomorrow, the scouts won't come back, and you'll have to find out why. You wake up before dawn, not because you're rested. That word has no meaning anymore. You wake up because something feels off. The air is wrong. Still. Too still. Not in a peaceful way. More in a something's watching you way. You sit up slowly. The camp's quiet. Too quiet. Fires burned low. Men sleeping in frozen clumps. Your breath fogs in front of you. You watch it drift and disappear, then do it again, like you're checking to see if you're still alive. You hear footsteps. Software. Then a voice. Low. Urgent. Scouts didn't come back. You blink. You register the words slowly, like they're passing through syrup. They left yesterday. Midday. 2 men. 1 rifle between them. Rations for 1 night. Enough to find game or not. They should have been back hours ago. You pull on your boots without thinking. They're stiff. Your left heel feels like it's cracking inside the leather. You wince. You don't stop. The officer gathers 5 of you. You, of course, are one of them. Because your legs still work. Barely. He gives you directions. Kind of. Points vaguely west and says to follow the tree line until you find signs. Of what? He doesn't say. You start walking. The snow is fresh and unbroken. You move quietly. No one talks. After an hour, you find a footprint. Just one. Frozen in the snow, half filled with new flakes. You stop. You all crouch. You examine it like a priest reading bones. Then another, and another. Then nothing. Just drag marks. You follow them. They lead to a tree, a broken branch, a smear of something dark against the bark. You touch it, still tacky. Not frozen yet. You feel your stomach tighten. You keep moving. The tracks vanish again. You spread out, carefully, like hunters, except you're not sure what you're hunting for anymore. Another hour, then you find it, a rifle, just lying there, half buried in snow. No sign of its owner. No footprints. No blood. Just silence. You pick it up. Check the barrel. Still loaded. Safety primed. Dropped in a hurry. Or forgotten. Someone whispers, "This don't feel right." You agree. But you don't say anything. Because the woods are listening. You press on. Eventually, you find a torn piece of cloth. Then a glove. Then nothing. Again. You stand there. Just you. And the cold. And the quiet. And the heavy knowledge that you are now part of a story that has no ending. The officer calls off the search after dusk. Says they're gone. Says if they're alive, they'll make it back on their own. Says it like it's a reasonable thing to believe. You walk back in silence. No one says a word. When you return to camp, dinner is ready. Fish, small, bony, but real. You chew it carefully. Swallow every bite. You watch the fire. The officer says there will be more patrols tomorrow. More searches. You nod. You close your eyes for a moment. You hear the wind. You imagine footsteps in it. You tell yourself it's just the trees. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 21. And you still have all your limbs. So far, sleep if you can. Tomorrow might be quieter, but that doesn't mean it's safe. You don't sleep well. That shouldn't surprise you at this point, but tonight, it's worse. It's not the cold this time. Not really. The cold is always there, biting gently at your face, your hands, that raw spot on your neck where your scarf keeps rubbing. It's not even the wetness of the ground, though that too has worked its way through your blanket and is now just a part of your spine. No. What keeps you awake tonight is the feeling. That prickle on the back of your neck, that creeping low dread that slides down your ribs and settles behind your stomach. The scouts didn't come back. No tracks led anywhere, no answers, just scattered gear and silence that seemed too heavy for the forest to wear. You're not the only one who feels it. You notice the other men, sitting a little closer together than usual around the fire. No songs tonight. No jokes about how bad the stew is, or how someone snores louder than a bear. Just the popping of wet wood in the flames and the occasional cough. The kind that sounds like it might bring something up. Maybe blood. Maybe worse. Then someone starts talking. Not loud. Not with any drama. Just a voice. Slow and low. Like he's trying to hand you something delicate and dangerous. He tells a story about a man who went missing in the woods, not one of ours. Someone else, he says. A Frenchman, maybe Canadian, maybe something older. He wandered off one morning and never came back, but days later, someone saw him, standing between the trees, still, staring, not blinking. The man who saw him swore he had frost in his beard and fire in his eyes. And when they called out to him, he smiled, then vanished. Another man snorts and says, "It's just a story." But no one laughs, because stories feel different out here, in the cold, in the dark, with the woods pressing in around you like you're sitting inside a chest and someone just closed the lid. The fire cracks, sparks drift upward and vanish. The officer walks by and says it's time to pick night watch. You look away. So does everyone else. Because no one wants it. Not tonight. Not with the missing men. Not with the eyes some of you swear you saw just past the trees earlier, though no one said it out loud. Still, someone has to take it. And eventually, they pick straws. You draw a second shift. You nod. You don't argue. You wouldn't waste the breath. First shift sits by the fire, musket across his lap, eyes scanning the tree line with a steadiness that's more stubborn than brave. You lie down, but you don't sleep. You try. You close your eyes. You listen to the wind hissing across the snow. You hear footsteps. Maybe. Or maybe your heart is just that loud now. Eventually, the man nudges you. Second shift. You rise like you're made of stone and smoke. Your body doesn't even try to argue anymore. You take your place. The fire's lower now, the shadows longer. The woods, still watching. You stare into the dark and try not to blink. The trees creak. Somewhere far off, something howls. It doesn't sound like a wolf. Not really. You grip your musket tighter. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell yourself there's nothing out there but snow and wind and silence. You tell yourself stories can't hurt you. But still, you keep watching. Just in case. You wouldn't last a day, but this is day 22. And you made it through your shift. Barely. Sleep, if it comes, will not be kind. But close your eyes. Rest, if you can. Because tomorrow, the river's frozen over, and the officer thinks that means it's safe to cross. You wake up sore in places you didn't know you had. Your left hip has become a flat piece of wood, your shoulders creak when you move, and your jaw aches from grinding your teeth all night. You sit up slowly. Your blanket is stiff, icy. It bends like cardboard. You shake it off and watch crystals scatter into the wind. There's commotion near the fire. The officer is talking, pointing. His breath makes little clouds as he says the word everyone hoped he wouldn't say. Crossing. You blink at him like maybe if you don't move, he'll change his mind. He doesn't. He says the river's frozen solid now, that it's the shortest way to the next outpost, that if you cross here today, you'll shave 2 days off the march. No one cheers, because 2 days off the march means nothing when those 2 days come with a gamble that could drop you straight through ice into black water and an early grave. But you pack up anyway, because orders don't care about frostbite, and the cold doesn't care about orders. You line up single file and march toward the bank. The river's wide. It used to roar. Now it's quiet, still, covered in a layer of white that doesn't look thick enough to hold anyone's weight, let alone yours and your gear and your deep, deep regret. The officer steps out first. His boots creak on the ice. It doesn't crack. You all watch like you're waiting for a plate to break. He makes it 10 feet, then waves for the next. One by one, you start across. Slow. Careful. Your musket is slung across your back. Your pack is light. There's nothing left in it. Just a blanket, a dull knife, and whatever scraps you've convinced yourself are food. You test each step. The ice groans. It's the sound of something ancient and hungry just below the surface. You don't breathe. You walk like a ghost. Ahead, someone stumbles. You freeze. He catches himself. Keeps moving. You exhale. Then it happens. A horse steps onto the ice. Its rider looks nervous. He should be. The horse takes a few steps. Then there's a crack. A pause. Then another. Then the ice gives out like it was never there. The horse disappears. Just gone. No splash. Just a folding, wet sound, like a curtain yanked down in a dark room. The man screams. He scrambles backward. Another man grabs him by the collar and yanks. They both fall. They claw at the snow. Crawl back to solid ground. The hole in the ice stares back at you. Dark. Still. Hungry. No one says a word. The officer tells everyone to spread out more. You keep moving. It takes an hour to cross. When you reach the other side, you fall to your knees. Not in prayer, just in exhaustion. Your legs are trembling. Your boots are soaked. Again. Someone laughs nervously. Then someone throws up. The officer says you made good time. You think about the horse. You wonder how long it took to sink. Dinner that night is hardtack you didn't know you still had. Cracked in half. Soaked in tea that tastes like pine needles. You chew slowly. Your teeth hurt. Your gums are swollen. You eat anyway. You always eat. Because hunger has become the one thing you can count on. That night, no one tells stories. No one sings. They just lie in their blankets, staring at the sky. No stars. Just clouds. And the memory of cracking ice. You wouldn't last a day. But this was day 23. And somehow, you're still here. Sleep if you can. Because tomorrow, you climb the ridge, and your lungs are going to hate every second of it. Morning comes slower today. The sun struggles behind clouds like it's too tired to show up, and honestly, you get it. You sit up, bones creaking, breath coming out in long steam lines. Your nose is clogged, but not with anything as hopeful as mucus, just frozen air and despair. The order is simple today. Go uphill. Just climb. Doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter what for. The officer says there's a ridge ahead that gives tactical view. You don't care about tactical view. You care about not dying before noon. You pack your things. It takes longer now. Everything hurts. Your wrists are swollen from cold. Your legs are sore from marching through snow. You've been limping for 3 days, but haven't told anyone, because that's how men end up in the back. And the back is where the frost takes its pick. The climb starts easy. You move in a line between crooked trees, snow crunching underfoot, wind cutting sideways across your face like it's trying to erase you. But then the ground tilts. The hill becomes a slope. Then the slope becomes a scramble. Snow gives way to hard ground and patches of ice, and every step becomes a gamble between keep moving and fall to your death. You lean forward. You grip branches. They snap. You try again. Your fingers go numb. Someone ahead of you slips, slides 10 feet, grabs a root, saves himself. Barely. You try not to look down. You try not to look anywhere but the next place to put your foot. Your lungs burn. Not the kind of burn that means exercise. The kind of burn that means your nose is frozen and you're trying to suck in air that feels like glass. You cough. It's wet. You ignore it. At one point, you wipe your face on your sleeve and feel the crust of dried blood on your lip. Your nose has been bleeding since you slipped earlier. You didn't notice. You're not sure when it started. You touch it again, still bleeding. You keep going. The wind picks up near the ridge. It screams now. You lean into it like you're pushing against an invisible door that wants to shut you out. The man next to you gives up. He sits down on a rock, says he needs a moment. You all know what that means. You leave him. You make it to the top, eventually. The officer's already there, looking out, like he's won something. You don't look. You drop to your knees, then your side, then your back. You lie there gasping, sky spinning, chest pounding. You listen to your heartbeat and wonder if it's supposed to sound like that. The cold seeps through your coat, through your ribs, into your lungs. But you don't move. You just lie there and let it take half of you. Lunch is a crust of something in your pocket. It used to be bread. Maybe. It tastes like nothing. You chew it anyway. It sticks to your teeth. One of them throbs. You try not to think about it. You all sit like ghosts around a frozen fire pit waiting for orders. None come. The officer says to hold the position. For what? Nobody knows. But no one asks. You spend the night on the ridge. No shelter. Just a few loose stones as windbreak. You lie flat, face covered, eyes closed, feet tingling in that not good way. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 24, and your nose stopped bleeding. Eventually. Sleep if you can. Because tomorrow, you go down the other side, and it's steeper, much steeper. You wake up curled into a ball, not because it's comfortable, but because that's the only way to keep your stomach, knees and fingers within 20 degrees of each other. The wind has been slapping the ridge all night, and the cold feels different up here. Not just colder, meaner, personal. Like it's mad at you specifically. When you uncurl, your knees pop, your shoulders crack, and your blanket peels off your back like frozen wax paper. You blink at the pale morning light. Everything's white and flat and too bright. You haven't seen color in days that isn't some shade of brown, gray, or regret. The officer points downhill. He doesn't yell today. Maybe he's tired too. Maybe the wind is doing enough yelling for everyone. The descent starts easy. Just a gentle slope through thin woods. You think, okay, maybe this won't be too bad. Then you step on a patch of ice hidden under the snow and land on your back so fast it takes your breath away. You lie there, blinking at the sky for a full minute, trying to decide if your spine still works. It does. Mostly, you get up, you keep going. But now you're cautious. Everyone is. You move slow, careful, like ants crawling across glass. You dig your heels into the snow and hope there's dirt beneath. Half the time, there isn't. The trail narrows. You reach a section that's less trail and more vertical drop decorated with roots and frozen weeds. There's no path, just choices. You go sideways, holding onto a thin sapling. It bends, then it snaps. You fall forward, arms flailing, one boot catching just enough on a rock to stop your full collapse. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because if you don't, you'll scream. The man behind you isn't as lucky. He slips, slides, hits a rock, then a tree, then goes still. You scramble toward him. He's groaning. One of his legs is wrong, not bleeding, just wrong. His foot points sideways. You know what that means? So does he. He doesn't speak. Just stares at the sky and breathes through his teeth. The officer appears, looks, says the words everyone hates to hear. Leave him. You argue. You say, he'll die out here. The officer says, then he dies, and walks away. You sit with the man for a while. Wrap his coat tighter. Give him your last crust of hardtack. He smiles. Tells you it tastes like bark. You nod. Because it is. Eventually, you move on. The slope evens out after a while, but the damage is done. Your thighs burn. Your arms ache. Your brain feels like it's been scraped raw from thinking too hard about balance and ice and whether you're next. You reach the base by sundown. Camp is set in a shallow hollow between tree lines. The firewood is damp. The smoke stings your eyes. Dinner is stew again. Of course. You eat it in silence. Everyone's thinking about the man on the ridge. And the one who might slip tomorrow. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 25. And you still have both ankles. Somehow. Sleep, if you can. Because tomorrow, you march again. Because there's always a tomorrow in this war. Until there isn't. You wake to the sound of water, not a stream, not a gentle trickle, not even rain. Just water. Everywhere. It's in your boots, in your blanket, dripping off your nose before you're even upright. You sit up and your fingers squish in your gloves. Everything is damp. Not just damp, soggy. It rained all night. The kind of rain that forgets how to stop. And now the camp looks like a battlefield between mud and misery. The fire's out. Your boots, which you tried to keep dry by sticking under your tarp, are filled with a mystery soup of sock fuzz, swamp water, and your dwindling will to live. You dump them out. You put them on anyway. Because what else are you going to do? You stand. Everything squelches. The officer's already shouting. He's decided the next leg of the march has to start now, because there's a creek nearby that might flood if you don't move soon. The man has never heard of morale or mercy. You start marching through mud. Not over it, through it. With every step, your feet sink deep, like the earth is trying to eat you whole. It clings to your boots, your calves, even your coat hem. You're not marching. You're dragging yourself forward like a reluctant scarecrow through chocolate pudding. Every now and then, someone gets stuck. One guy loses a boot entirely. He steps, and it just stays behind. He has to dig it out with a stick while cursing at God, the army, the weather, and whatever genius thought fighting a war in this season was a good idea. By midday, you're soaked through. The rain hasn't stopped. It's colder now, too. Your coat has doubled in weight. Your shirt sticks to your back like wet gauze. You can feel the squish of your socks with every step, and you've officially stopped trying to avoid puddles, because the whole ground is one big puddle. You hear someone mention trench foot. You've heard the stories. Toes turning black, skin peeling off, feet swelling until boots have to be cut away. Someone pulls off their sock by the fire that night to check. Their foot is purple and smells like boiled cheese. You all lean away. Someone coughs so hard they spit blood into the fire. No one flinches. Dinner is watery stew with too much bark and not enough anything. Someone says it's their birthday. Nobody reacts at first. Then, slowly, one guy starts to hum something. A tune. Could be, Happy Birthday. Could be, Please Let Me Die. Doesn't matter. Everyone joins in. Off-key. Half-hearted. Like ghosts singing from the bottom of a swamp. Someone gives the birthday guy their last piece of hardtack. It's moldy. He eats it anyway. Because that's love out here. You lie back that night, water dripping from the edge of your tarp, watching the sky shift through dark clouds and more dark clouds. You breathe, slow, mouth closed. Because it still tastes like swamp. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 26, and you almost celebrated something. Sort of. Sleep, if you can, because tomorrow, your socks will still be wet, and your toes will still be mad about it. You wake up in a puddle, not next to one, not under one, in it. Your blanket is soaked. Your trousers are soaked. Your soul is soaked. You roll over and dump a full handful of cold rainwater out of your sleeve. That's new. Your boots squelch before you even stand up. The officer says it's bath day. You blink. You laugh. He wasn't joking. Apparently, there's a river ahead. More like a wide stream, and today's the day you're all going to wash off the stink of death. That's what he says. Nobody moves. Not because they're refusing. Because no one's quite sure if he actually means it. But then he points, and you march. You march to a river that smells like wet dog and decomposing leaves. You stare at it for a long time. It stares back. Cold, gray, indifferent. You haven't bathed in weeks. Your skin itches in places you're afraid to scratch. There's dried blood behind your ears, mud caked under your fingernails, and a smell in your armpits that could probably qualify as a chemical weapon. Still, You hesitate, because that water looks worse than you. The first man steps in. You hear his breath leave his lungs like he just got stabbed in the back. He sinks in up to his waist and immediately regrets everything. But he starts scrubbing anyway. The rest of you follow, because that's what soldiers do. You grit your teeth, you strip down, you step in, and it hits you like a slap. No, like falling through glass into a grave. You scream a little. Inside, you dunk your head. It feels like someone shoved an icicle into your brain through your ear. You scrub quickly, desperately, fingers numb, teeth chattering so hard they feel loose. You find a bug bite behind your knee the size of a walnut. You find a rash on your side that looks like it might be alive. You rinse, you shiver, you swear. Then you stumble out and stand there dripping, steaming in the air, like some tragic creature from a haunted swamp. Your clothes go back on wet. They were already wet. Now they're colder. Congratulations. You're cleanish. You're freezing. And you still smell like suffering. Someone tries to shave with a bayonet. He nicks himself 3 times and gives up halfway through. Now he looks like he lost a fight with a blind cat. You all stare at him. He shrugs. You nod. Because honestly, respect. Dinner that night is dried corn boiled into a mushy paste. Someone calls it gruel. You call it better than snow. You eat every bite. Someone passes out from exhaustion face first into their bowl. No one moves to help, because you're all one bad breath away from doing the same. You lie down under a tree that leaks. You curl up. Your skin burns from the cold and the scrubbing. You think about home. You forget what your bed felt like. You forget what your mother's voice sounded like. But you remember how it felt to be warm. That was nice. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 27. And you bathed. Sort of. Sleep, if you can. Because tomorrow, there's word of a skirmish. And you might finally get to shoot at something other than squirrels and shadows. You don't wake up so much as you re-enter suffering. Your joints ache. Your back is a wooden plank. Your socks have molded into a new ecosystem inside your boots, and your left eye won't open all the way because your lashes froze together during the night. The officer says there's movement ahead. Not friendly movement. Actual enemy scouts, maybe a detachment, maybe a whole company. Nobody knows, which means it's time for drills. Because if you're going to die freezing in a muddy field, you should at least die in formation. You groan. You stand. You fall. Then you stand again. The drills begin. You line up. You shoulder arms. You fix bayonets. The guy next to you sneezes so hard his musket clatters into the snow. No one laughs. You all just exist. The drills are slow. Cold fingers fumble with flints and powder. Musket barrels rattle in shivering hands. Your officer walks up and down the line shouting things like, "Ram faster," and "Hold your fire until I say." You nod. Sort of. Your ears hurt too much to hear properly. When it's your turn, you go through the motions. Pour powder. Drop the ball. Ram it home. Raise. Aim, click. Nothing. The flint's wet. No spark. You sigh. You knew it was wet. You do it again anyway, because that's how it works. You don't stop just because something doesn't work. If you did, you'd have stopped on day 2. Eventually, someone fires a real shot. The report cracks the morning stillness like a cannon blast. Everyone flinches. You check your ears. still attached. Good. The officer claps his hands. Good enough, he says, which is Army speak for, we're all doomed, but we're moving anyway. You march toward the forest's edge. Your heart beats louder than your footsteps. Not because you're ready, because you're not. You see movement ahead, shadows behind trees, shapes in the mist. You raise your musket. It's heavy. Your shoulders burn. You wait. Then, nothing. The officer lowers his hand. Scouts, he says. Yours. You relax. Sort of. You lower your weapon. Your fingers are cramping. They barely obey anymore. Back at camp, someone tries to dry his powder with a piece of cloth near the fire. It sparks. He curses. His fingers get burned. He curses louder. No one offers help. Because you're all too busy inspecting your gear, wondering if your flint will even strike next time, if your powder's still good, if you'll even get to fire before someone else does. Dinner is jerky that smells like wet leather and tastes worse. You chew anyway, because it's chew or starve. Someone asks, "What's the plan if we actually get hit tomorrow?" The officer says, "Hold the line." That's not a plan. That's a death sentence with extra steps. But you nod. Because what else do? You curl up near a tree. Not for comfort, just for wind cover. You tuck your musket under your blanket. Because you don't trust anyone. Not the army, not the weather, and certainly not the enemy you haven't seen yet. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 28, and your musket almost worked. Sleep if you can. Because tomorrow, they might finally shoot back. And that's when things really go wrong. You don't even remember falling asleep. Your body just gave up and shut down. You wake up curled in the same stiff shape you dropped into, arms crossed, boots still on, jaw clenched so tight your teeth ache. You don't stretch, you don't yawn, you just sit up, slow. The air smells like smoke and rot, and blood. It's faint, but it's there. No one says good morning. No one smiles. Someone coughs and spits something dark into the snow. That's the closest thing to conversation. You eat something that might have once been part of a rabbit. It's stringy, tough, cold. You chew anyway. Because chewing gives you something to do that isn't looking at the tree line where you left your fear yesterday. Then the order comes. Clear the field. That's all. 3 words. And you know exactly what it means. You walk. You walk past broken branches, trampled snow, scattered packs, musket balls half buried like seeds in frozen dirt. You walk past blood trails, not puddles, trails. The long, smeared kind that says someone crawled, or tried to. You don't look too closely. You bend down and grab gear from a fallen man. You don't look at his face. You don't want to know if his eyes are still open. You grab his cartridge box, his blanket, his tin cup, because someone else might use them. You step over another body, then another. You recognize one of them. He shared jerky with you 4 days ago. You can't remember his name. You think it started with J. Maybe. You keep walking. The officer barks something about burial, but there aren't shovels, just sticks, hands, whatever can carve into the frozen ground. So you scrape out what you can, lay them side by side, cover them in snow. It's not enough. You know it. Everyone knows it. But the snow doesn't argue. It just falls silently, softly, pretending to be kind. You head back to camp. You don't talk. Nobody does. One man finally breaks the silence. Says, "At least it wasn't us." Another man spits and walks away. Dinner is soup again. The color is gray. You don't ask what's in it. You just sip and let the heat burn your tongue. Better pain than hunger. The fire pops. A spark lands on your coat. You pat it out. You stare at the flames. You try not to think about the ridge, or the blood, or the eyes that didn't close. You try to think about something else. Anything else. Like what it would feel like to sleep indoors, to have dry socks, to not wake up wondering if it's your turn to disappear. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 30, and you did your job. No medals, no thanks, just more cold wind and the quiet weight of survival. Sleep if you can. Because tomorrow, there's talk of moving camp, and you'll have to dig out your boots again, if they haven't frozen to the ground. You wake up feeling older than you are. Your back doesn't bend so much as crack. Your fingers don't close into fists without a full negotiation. The cold is everywhere. It's in your joints, under your tongue, behind your eyes. You've stopped being surprised by it. You've stopped cursing it. The cold is just another part of you now, like your damp socks and the layer of dirt that has become your second skin. The officer walks through camp with the same look he always has, like he's mildly disappointed in everything he sees. He tells everyone to pack up. The ridge is no longer secure, or maybe the forest's too exposed, or maybe someone higher up sent a message scrawled in frozen ink that said, "Move." It doesn't matter. Orders are orders. So you roll your blanket, sling your pack, and yank your boots out of the snow where they've frozen to the ground overnight. You carry your gear like it's not killing you. Your shoulders scream, your knees wobble, and your spine is a tight coil of protest. But you move anyway, because the only thing worse than marching is being the last one still packing. The snow is thicker now, the kind that drags at your feet like it has a grudge. Every step feels like a question. Do I keep going? Can I keep going? You don't answer. You just walk. Trees stretch above you like crooked fingers. The wind threads through them and whistles in a way that makes you think of ghosts. Maybe it is ghosts. You've left enough bodies behind to fill a cemetery. If they wanted to haunt this forest, they'd have plenty of company. At one point, you pass a tree marked with a knife. Just a slash. One of your men made it yesterday to mark the trail back. Now it's half buried in snow. You stare at it for a second too long. Not because it's useful, but because it's a reminder that you're not walking in circles, though it feels like it. You keep moving. By midday, the officer points to a low grove surrounded by tall trees. "Here," he says, like it's a gift. It's not. It's wet, it's narrow, and it smells faintly of something dead. You wonder what animal decided to die here before you. You almost envy it, but you drop your pack and start gathering wood anyway. That's the job now. Set up. Again. There's no dry wood. There's barely wood. Just damp twigs, crooked branches, and pine that smokes instead of burns. You carry as much as you can. Twice, 3 times, 4, until your arms stop feeling like they belong to you. Then you sit next to a pile of rocks pretending to be a fire pit and stare into the middle distance. Someone finally gets a flame going. Barely. You huddle around it. The smoke is constant. It curls into your eyes, your throat, your coat. Your eyes water, but you don't blink it away. It makes you feel something. That counts for something. Dinner is the same as always. unidentifiable chunks boiled in sadness. Someone claims it's salted pork. Someone else swears it's shoe leather. You all eat it anyway, because hunger is louder than doubt. You swallow every bite with the tired discipline of a man who knows the difference between bad and worse. A few men trade stories about food they used to eat. Fresh bread, roasted chicken, actual fruit. You don't say anything. You've stopped remembering those kinds of things. They feel like fiction now. When the sun sets, there's no fanfare, just more gray, more cold. You find a patch of ground that isn't completely soaked and drop down. You don't lay out your blanket. You collapse into it. You stare at the sky. It's not dark, not light, just smudged, like someone painted over hope with smoke. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 31, and you carried your weight. Literally. Sleep if you can, because tomorrow, there's talk of a patrol mission, and your legs already know they're not ready. You don't hear the morning call. You feel it. In your ribs, in your aching legs, in the way your stomach twists with hunger, and your eyes open just enough to see the officer's boots stomping past your face. It's not even really morning. It's just less dark than before. The sun is behind clouds again. Always is. But the wind has changed. It bites today. Sharp. Thin. Like it's learned how to cut through fabric. You're already shivering by the time you stand up. Not because it's cold, which it is, but because your coat is still damp from yesterday, and your gloves have holes in the fingertips. You wiggle your hands and feel nothing. You squint, hoping the feeling comes back before you're sent out. But deep down, you know better. Your fingers belong to the cold now. The officer chooses 5 men for the morning patrol. You are one of them. Of course. He says you're going north. To check the tree line, he says, like it means something. You don't ask what you're looking for. You just nod. You all load your weapons, slow and stiff, as if that somehow makes the powder stay dry longer. You shoulder your packs. One man checks his boots and mutters that his left sole came halfway off during the last march. He ties it together with twine. Good enough. Then you move out. The forest is quiet in a way that makes you uncomfortable. No birds, no rustling, just snow falling in lazy flakes and the soft crunch of boots through slush and old leaves. One of the men starts coughing behind you, wet and deep, but covers it quickly. You don't say anything. You just tighten your grip on the musket and keep walking. You cross a frozen creek. The ice creaks beneath your boots, and your heart stops. Just for a second. Then you step onto the other side. One of the men slips and nearly goes in, but catches himself on a frozen root. No one laughs. That kind of luck doesn't come twice. You make it about 2 miles before anyone speaks. The man to your right whispers, "You think they're watching us?" You don't answer. Because yes, you do think they're watching. Whether it's British regulars, native allies, deserters, or just the eyes of the forest, you feel them. Every snap of a twig makes your stomach tighten. Every gust of wind makes you flinch. You're not scared, exactly. You're just tired of wondering when it'll finally be your turn. Eventually, you find nothing. Which, honestly, is a gift. No ambush, no gunfire, no footprints that don't belong to you. Just a few deer tracks and something that might have been a fox. You turn back. It starts snowing harder. The wind picks up. You pull your coat tighter, but it doesn't help. The cold slips through every seam, finds every corner of you. and settles there like it plans to stay. By the time you return to camp, your eyelashes are crusted with ice, and the sweat on your back has frozen into a layer of stiff cloth. You smell like iron and wet wool. Your cheeks sting. Your nose drips, then freezes. The fire is out when you get back. No one says anything about it. You just walk over to your gear, sit down, and breathe through the pain in your knees. Dinner is tea. Just tea. No stew, no biscuit. Just warm brown water that tastes vaguely of dirt and boiled hope. You drink it like it's wine. Someone mentions they heard from another regiment. A real battle, somewhere to the south. Heavy losses. Maybe yours is next. No one reacts. It's not that you don't care. It's that you can't. Not anymore. You wouldn't last a day. But this is day 32, and you patrolled the tree line without dying. So you lie down next to a pile of ash that used to be a fire, pull your blanket over your face, and pray for silence. Sleep if you can, because tomorrow they're sending scouts ahead, and you might be one of them.